Benji is standing in aisle 7 of a grocery store, holding a jar of pasta sauce, and he is doing something people do not usually do in public. He is doing math, slowly, carefully. The kind of math you do when the number at the bottom of the receipt has started to feel less like a total and more like a threat. He came in for a week of groceries, a normal week, nothing fancy. And the basket in his hand already costs more than his entire weekly shop did 2 years ago. Same food, same store, same Benji. So what changed? Because here is the thing. Benji assumes it is inflation. Everyone says inflation. But inflation is not really an explanation. It is a description. It is the word we use to avoid saying the actual reasons. And the actual reasons behind that jar of pasta sauce are stranger, more specific, and far more infuriating than a single word on the news. If this video makes something click that has been quietly draining your bank account, hit subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly that moment. Let's start with the tomato. Benji picks one up. It costs about $4. Not a pound. One tomato. A little larger than usual, sure, but still. $4. 2 years ago, that same tomato was closer to $1.50. Benji assumes the farmer is charging more, or the store is greedy, or inflation, that word again. But the real reason that tomato costs $4 has almost nothing to do with the farmer, and almost everything to do with the decision made in Washington. Around 90% of the fresh tomatoes eaten in the United States are grown in Mexico. In July of 2025, a tariff of roughly 17% was placed on fresh Mexican tomatoes. A tariff is a tax on imported goods. And here is the part most people get wrong. A tariff is not paid by Mexico. It is not paid by the farmer in Mexico. It is paid by the American company that imports the tomato, which means it is paid, eventually, by Benji. In the last year, tomato prices rose around 40%. 40. That is not inflation in the abstract. That is a specific tax on a specific fruit that lands specifically in Benji's basket. Benji puts the tomato back. Then he picks it back up because he still needs a tomato. That, right there, is the entire trap. Let's move to the coffee. Benji drinks coffee. Most people do. And his usual bag has quietly climbed to a price that makes him do a double take. Coffee prices jumped around 18% in a single year. And this one is not even mostly about tariffs. This is about weather. Coffee is grown in specific climates in specific countries, and when those regions get hit by drought or heat or crop disease, the global supply of coffee shrinks. When supply shrinks and demand stays the same, price climbs. Benji did not change. His coffee habit did not change. A growing season on the other side of the planet changed, and Benji is paying for it every single morning. Here's a question. How many things in Benji's basket are priced by something happening thousands of miles away that he has no control over and never even hears about? The answer is most of them. Let's talk about the thing that makes Benji feel like he is losing his mind. Because it is not just that prices went up. It is that the packages got smaller at the same time. Benji grabs a bag of chips. It feels light, suspiciously light. He remembers this bag being fuller. He is not imagining it. There is a name for this. It is called shrinkflation. And it is completely legal, entirely intentional, and designed specifically so that Benji does not notice. Here's how it works. When costs go up, a company has two choices: raise the price or shrink the product. Raising the price is dangerous because Benji sees the price. He notices when his $4 item becomes a $5 item. He might switch brands. He might get angry. But shrinking the product? Benji almost never notices that. The bag looks the same. The box looks the same. The price looks the same. But there are 2 fewer ounces inside. The company gets its money. Benji gets less food. And nobody has to put up an angry sign that says prices went up. A researcher studying consumer behavior would tell you this is not an accident. It is a strategy built entirely around the limits of human attention. Companies know you check the price. They know you do not check the weight. So they move the number you are not looking at. Shrinkflation is not a glitch in the system. It is the system, working exactly as designed against Benji, quietly, 1 ounce at a time. Benji is now standing in aisle 7. This is where it happens. This is where the breakdown lives. Because aisle 7 is where he does the full math for the first time. He looks in his basket. Pasta sauce, tomatoes, coffee, chips, bread, eggs, milk, some chicken, a few vegetables. This is not a luxury cart. This is survival food. This is the most boring, basic, unglamorous cart a person can push. And it costs more than his rent used to cost in a week, more than a car payment, more than he makes in half a day of work. And nobody told him this was coming. There was no announcement, no warning, just a slow, steady, quiet climb, item by item, week by week, until one day, in aisle 7, holding a jar of pasta sauce, Benji finally does the math and realizes the ground has been moving under him the entire time. Let's zoom out, because the reasons behind Benji's basket are not one thing. They are a stack of things, all landing at once. First, there are the tariffs, taxes on imported food that get passed to Benji. Second, there is energy. In early 2026, conflict in the Middle East and disruptions in global shipping sent fuel prices climbing. And here is what people forget about fuel. It is not just the gas in Benji's car. It is the diesel in the truck that delivers the food, the fuel that runs the tractor, the energy that powers the refrigeration. The cost of moving a tomato from a farm to a shelf is baked into the tomato. When fuel goes up, everything on every shelf goes up with it. Third, there is fertilizer. This one almost nobody talks about. The price of fertilizer for American farmers roughly doubled, driven by the same energy shocks and global conflicts. Fertilizer is what grows corn, wheat, soybeans, rice. Those are not just foods. They are the foundation of the entire food supply. They feed the animals that become Benji's chicken and his eggs and his milk. When fertilizer doubles, the cost ripples up through the entire food chain and lands. Eventually, in aisle 7, fourth, there is weather. A strange, warm, dry winter in California, where an enormous share of America's produce is grown. Left the reservoirs full, but the mountain snowpack empty. And snowpack is what feeds the water supply through the hot growing months. Less water means higher costs for farmers, which means higher prices for Benji. None of these things are Benji's fault. None of them are in Benji's control. And all of them show up in the same basket, at the same checkout, on the same Tuesday afternoon. Here's the part that really gets under Benji's skin. He keeps hearing that inflation is coming down, that the economy is fine, that prices have stabilized. And in a technical sense, that is sometimes true. Inflation is a measure of how fast prices are rising. When inflation slows, it does not mean prices go down. It means they go up more slowly. The $4 tomato does not become a $1 tomato again. It just stops climbing quite as fast. The damage is not undone. It is locked in. Benji is not waiting for prices to fall. He has quietly accepted that this is simply what things cost now. And that acceptance, that quiet resignation, is the most expensive thing in the entire store. Because once Benji stops expecting things to get better, he stops noticing how much he has adjusted. He buys the smaller package. He skips the fruit. He puts back the thing he wanted. He does the math in aisle 7, and then he does not do it again. Because doing it hurts, and a person can only stand in a grocery store doing painful math for so long before they just stop looking at the receipt entirely. There is a number that captures this better than anything else. Consumer sentiment. It is a measure of how people feel about the economy. And in 2026, it dropped to some of the lowest levels ever recorded. Not because people cannot read the headlines that say the economy is fine, but because the headlines and the checkout lines stopped agreeing with each other. Benji does not experience the economy in a report. He experiences it in a basket. And the basket has been telling him a very different story than the news. So the next time someone tells Benji that inflation is under control, he is not going to argue. He is just going to think about aisle 7, about the $4 tomato that is a tax, about the coffee priced by a drought he will never see, about the bag of chips that quietly lost 2 ounces while he was not looking, about the fertilizer and the fuel and the snowpack and the war, all of it landing in one basic, boring survival cart. And he is going to remember that inflation was never really the explanation. It was just the word everyone used, so they would not have to explain the rest. Benji finishes his shopping. He pays. The number is high. He does not flinch this time. And that is the saddest part, because not flinching means he has gotten used to it. He carries his smaller bags to his car. Same food, same store, same Benji. And a receipt that tells a story no single word could ever explain. If this hit different than you expected, subscribe. There is a lot more where this came from. And share this one, because someone in your life is standing in aisle 7 right now, doing the math, and does not have the words for why.